is those random acquaintances that make possible.
6 degrees.
Welcome to the 6 Degrees Closer podcast, guys. My name is Danny Jensen, and we are have a pleasure of having two of probably my favorite guests on so far. So this is the spinoff from my dad. My dad was our very first actual guest on the show. And then you guys are now his kind of choice for the next guest. And then obviously, as I've explained to you guys a little bit, you guys will never then pick my next guest after this, somebody that I really don't know very well. And, you know, I have met Gebben a few times, but Karen, I really don't know you very well. So this will be fun to kind of get to know you guys a little bit better and kind of see kind of where this podcast goes. But just to start off, introduce yourself, tell us about yourself and kind of who you guys are.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it is an honor to be here, Danny. And I think what this podcast is meant to do is pretty awesome. I love the 6 degrees of separation thing, but yeah, my name's Gebben Miles and my wife here is Karen Miles. We got married a couple months ago and we are both world champion clay target shooters. And it's something that I've been doing for a very long time. Karen's a little bit more new at it, but my dad was actually her shooting coach as she was getting into clay shooting, and she had a goal to become a world champion. And I moved back to Arizona in 2020 from Australia, and then I was in Texas before that. But we started shooting together, and I was coaching her, coached her into becoming a world champion. We started dating, and now we're married. So
that is so awesome.
Cool story.
That's so awesome. And Karen, you guys, you said you met when did you meet?
Well, we probably met in like 2018 when Gebben was down for it was when 2018 when Gebben was down in Tucson for the U.S. Open.
Okay.
Tim had the U.S. Open.
Definitely.
And so I ended up actually shooting Halise with him. That was like the first time, and I beat him. I shot 29 out of 30, and I don't know what he
28.
shot. So I was like, oh my
28.
gosh, I just beat the world champion Gebben Miles because Tim was my coach at the time.
Oh my gosh.
So started getting lessons from Tim, and then Tim's like, hey, I've taken her like as far as I can right now.
Yeah.
Like, Gebben, you kind of need to step in. And then so 2020, COVID hit. So like we had planned on starting the season in March, pretty much, starting the traveling. Well, everything got pushed.
And that's
off
right
to
when
August,
that's right when COVID
right?
started.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so everything got pushed to August. Our whole season was from August to November. So
my
pretty
gosh.
crammed. We were probably home for a total of, 20 days through that whole time.
Oh yeah.
But up till then, before then, I guess, we shot together probably anywhere from like 4 to 6 times a week. So
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so unique.
yeah.
And then I know you mentioned you guys are both world champions.
Mm-hmm.
Gebben, we'll start with you. I know you've won a few huge shoots in the past and probably pretty recently as well. Gebben wins like every week, and so does Karen. So it's like, it's not shocking that we're saying that they're winning, but tell us about like a few of your favorite shoots, kind of how I think it'd probably be good to like explain a little bit how Sporting Clays works as well.
Sure.
Cause I think a lot of people will, that'll help them.
Yeah. So Sporting Clays is not a very well-known game, I guess, across the world. Our organization's pretty small. I mean, we only have, I think, about 35,000 people in the organization of Sporting Clays in the U.S. But a lot of people do it. They ran some numbers. There's like, I think 7 million people in America that actually shoot a clay target.
Interesting.
Each year.
Okay, yeah.
And so a lot of people shoot clay targets, but don't necessarily know about Sporting Clays. So Sporting Clays is basically golf with a shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
They typically build courses into nature, and a course will be anywhere from 12 to 16 stations. Each station will have 2 different targets that range in speed, distance, and trajectory. I guess kind of range that you can have is as close as 10 yards, maybe as far as 80, sometimes a little bit more than that. But typically our shots are between 30 and 50 yards, crossing, coming at you, going away, looping, towers up in the air, targets sometimes way below your feet. In fact, we just got back from a shoot near Dubai. We flew to Dubai, but it was in an emirate called Fujairah. And we shot up in the mountains, and it was crazy. Like we had we had towers or like machines up into the mountains that simulated a tower shot, but it was like, 60 to 80 yards above us. And then
That's just
like,
ridiculous.
like 50 to 60 yards below us. And it was a really spectacular shoot. But that's a little bit about sporting clays. And I have been able to be successful over my career. I started actually shooting in 1996. Didn't really feel like it was a professional thing until probably about between 2000 and 2002. I started coaching a little bit. I was like 15, 16, started coaching and then got some sponsorship opportunities to start traveling more and ended up making Team USA and this and that. But in 2009 is really where my career took off. I won the national championship and then a couple years later became world champion and have, like you said, won some big shoots. Like the first shoot in Dubai was in 2014 and they threw a lot of money at that shoot. And that's kind of maybe the tournament that made me quote unquote famous, I guess. Beyond the shooting community, because it was like $140,000 was the first place.
I know my dad told me about that at some point, but I didn't realize it was that big.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Fascinating.
And so that, I mean, it's just opened up so many doors. I've been able to do a lot of cool things. In fact, I spent a few months in 2015, maybe because of that success, helping one of my friends out on the PGA Tour, kind of with his mindset and, maybe some of the things that I learned to incorporate in my game about, what taught me to win. I kind of helped him maybe learn how to win a little bit more as well.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And so, it's just, sporting clays is a really fun sport. And now I get to do it with my wife. And that's probably one of the most satisfying things. Like we get to practice together week in and week out and kind of push each other. And she has aspirations to not just be a ladies world champion, but an overall world champion as well.
I love that. That's so good. Yeah. Cool. And I've gotten the pleasure to see you shoot a few times. Karen, I've maybe seen you shoot once from far back. But it's pretty easy to tell when you're shooting when people are like in a rhythm and people are doing the correct things compared to something I do. You can tell when you're at a station, one person will be shooting that knows what they're doing, not me. And they'll have the same exact, pre-shot routine. And then you guys are hitting the same break points every time. And then for me, I just load the gun, shoot, bang, bang. And it might be, and the next one might be bang, bang. And the next one after that might be like bang, wait even longer, bang. Right. So like, it's totally like these different things, but for you guys, it's just so professional. So like down to every like movement, every little like kind of twitch. It's really fascinating to watch. So I wish other people kind of got to see that unique perspective of it, because it really is fascinating.
Absolutely.
Karen, then you started when did you start like really taking shooting seriously?
So I started shooting like a shotgun when I was 9.
Okay.
I actually grew up shooting with your brother in the SUTP stuff.
Oh, I didn't realize that's like, okay.
So that's kind of how I
That makes
started.
sense.
And it was mainly just trap and skeet. But then about, I guess in 2018 is really when I first started shooting sporting clays and sporting clays only.
Okay.
Really. So I had a couple years then that I was just learning, going to different shoots, just getting the experience. Because I wouldn't say like I wasn't ever close to the top in the ladies at all in 2018, 2019. And then really COVID was not the greatest for a lot of people, but it was like great for me because I got the time, like everything just stopped. School stopped, everything just stopped and I got to shoot. And so,
that's so cool.
When I got to do that, then that year is like the first year that I stepped into actually like being one of the top ladies. So since 2020, I've been competing at that high level against the ladies.
That's really cool. And then that was right. All that kind of stuff like lined up kind of perfectly for you guys then too. Because then you guys were training together. Now, are you guys both pretty competitive, or is one person more competitive than the other?
We're both pretty competitive.
Yeah, I mean, we're even competitive on the ping pong table at home. And I mean, we're both extremely competitive. But I think the cool thing that keeps us, I don't know what the word might be, but just keeps us humble, I guess. in the midst of that competitiveness, I think is our faith too.
That's
and
good.
And so one of the things for me before I really started winning at a high level, I went through this experience where I learned how to bring my faith into my shooting. And so learning how to, I guess, understand that my opportunity to shoot is a gift from God, and to be able to honor him with working super hard, but then having the right mindsets, healthy mindsets. A lot of people compete out of like
fear.
Yeah, kind of a fear-based mindset, or very, very selfish-based mindset. And so
I can see that totally.
So for me, like being able to want to, I guess, bring God glory rather than myself, and just see how all these doors open up from that has been really healthy. And I've been able to, I think, help Karen experience some of that, but also a lot of our students. So we coach as well. That's one of the things about Sporting Clays is we don't make enough money typically throughout the year to just shoot.
Yep.
So we have a shooting academy where we coach day in and day out. And we've been able to, I think, help a lot of our students realize that as well, experience some of these things from a faith-based standpoint. But then I've actually done a couple of camps specifically for shooters, teaching them some different principles, biblical principles, how to incorporate their own faith into their sport as well.
Fascinating.
And so that's been something that's really cool for us to see. We're not just helping people become better shooters, but we're helping people grow in their relationship with God as well.
No, that's fascinating. I really like that. And then would you say that also, you go to a big tournament, there's a lot of pressure in general, right? Like a lot of pressure just from, the sport itself. It's hard not to have pressure, especially when you're at the high level of anything. Does that help you not have as deep of valleys and as high of mountains? Does it keep you kind of leveled in a way?
Absolutely. So, I mean, and I know you want to answer this, but one of the things that has impacted me tremendously throughout my career is I heard when Maria Sharapova was kind of at the top of her tennis game, I was listening to an interview she had, and she mentioned something her coach told her, and she said, he said, pressures of privilege and champions thrive in it. And when I heard that, I was like, what does that mean? And I was kind of trying to figure out what he meant by that.
Absolutely.
And I was like, why is pressure a privilege? Well, pressure is always there, and pressure can be kind of like a focal point to draw your attention to the right things, or it can just take you out of your game completely.
Absolutely.
And so pressure is always going to be there. You have to learn how to deal with it in the right way, in a healthy way. And for me, anytime I feel that type of emotion, whether it's pressure or nervousness or whatever it is, I try to, one, like you said, give that to God, and then remind myself of some biblical truth that's going to help me have that laser focus,
like that. Yeah.
And so I know Karen's experienced some of those things too.
Yeah, definitely. Like all those things, like, he was coach, so he was teaching me those things too.
Of course.
But I would say like another thing too is like, as a competitor, a lot of people, they define themselves by however they place.
Of course, it almost becomes their identity.
Exactly, right?
I've seen this in almost every single sport out there.
Exactly.
Obviously, I've played a little bit of high level sports, and you see a lot of people actually really struggle to give up sports or give up certain things because of that identity that you're talking about.
Exactly, right. And so many people compete like that. But you asked like about the faith and how do we incorporate it? It's like, I know my identity is not in my score. It's not in my placement. It's in who Jesus says I am.
Yeah.
And like, really, that's all I need. So I have the gift. He's given me a gift. So my only job is just to go use it. And whatever happens. And so I'm just thinking about execution. Gives me a peace. It's like, okay, I'm just going to go work hard. That's all there is to it. Right.
At the end of the day, that's probably the best mindset that you can have, because you're not going to have a perfect day every day.
Exactly.
I mean, I think we all know that, but being able to kind of ground yourself.
Absolutely.
It's like, in a way, it's what I've felt recently is like I can just shoot freely.
That's
like
so good.
there's no like that. There's pressure. There's always tournament pressure,
Yeah.
but it's a different kind of pressure.
You might have
know?
coached her too well.
Well,
She might-
He's going down.
It's so healthy to be able to figure that out because, we're both, and I think maybe anybody is like this. Like we could easily become very self-absorbed and let the pressure get to us in a negative way, or just make it all about ourselves. And when we can kind of grasp onto that mindset that she's talking about, it's, in my opinion, the most healthy way to compete. And, we're all motivated by something. Like,
Of course.
why do you play pickleball?
That's actually a great question. Honestly, it's I actually just find it to be like the most enjoyable thing that I do in my life. I just I literally go out there and just enjoy playing.
Mhm.
I'm like genuinely happy, and I've always told people that I play with that I'm gonna quit pickleball as soon as I stop having fun.
Mhm.
Like I would just like stop playing because
Yeah.
it's just like that's how much joy it brings me.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
but that's also why I play so much.
Right.
It's like
Right.
I just love it.
Yeah.
Well, and so like with a lot of people, they can be motivated. I mean, I think almost everybody has to have some level of that for their sport, right?
You got it.
But like
So,
they might be motivated by other things too. Like, especially growing up in America as kids, like a lot of kids want their parents' approval, right?
absolutely.
Or want to, prove other people wrong or something like
Absolutely.
that, right? Or you get to more professional sports like that you make a lot of money in. That maybe they're motivated by money or fame or whatever it is, right?
Very
And
true.
those things aren't necessarily bad in and of themselves, but I think as far as us goes, being motivated by our relationship with God, like his love for us is our ultimate motivation. That's like the foundational motivation where like that actually propels us to work hard day in and day out. That propels us to, train not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. And then those other things could be, kind of subsequent motivators, like
sure.
I'm motivated to, keep up with Karen. I mean, shoot, like she beats me in practice often.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
and whatever the motivation is, like I know that I haven't, like I've won a lot of championships, but I haven't shot my absolute best for an entire tournament ever.
Yeah.
Like,
Very interesting.
because like our tournaments are multiple days,
Yeah.
they're either 2 days, 3 days, or like nationals and world championships are 4 days. It's really hard to shoot your best 3 or 4 days in a row,
For every single shot.
Yeah.
Wow. And how many in like one of those 4-day events, how many?
So our national championship is 300 targets over 4 days. World
Okay.
championships are typically 200 targets.
Okay.
And then, but like our major shoots monthly. So like our regional there's like 5 regional championships, US Open.
Mhm.
Those are all 200 targets. The regionals are over 2 days for the main event. You got all these side events,
Of course. Yeah.
and whatnot. But anyway, for an entire main event, I personally have never shot my best. Well, one of my goals is like, I want to go to a shoot and shoot my absolute best for the entire main event, whether that's 2, 3, or 4 days. And so, that's one thing that motivates me right now. Like,
That's awesome.
Like I want to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if that's possible. Like I heard Tiger Woods tell John Rahm just last week, he said that there's maybe 3 tournaments that he feels like he played his best in his whole career. And John Rahm's like, the cool thing is you don't have to be at your best to win.
Yeah.
And like, if you think about it, your best, in my opinion, I've had moments of perfection, during a shoot, certainly during practice. Well, if I know that my best can be perfection, why can't I do that for an entire shoot. But the reality is it's because we're human.
Of course. Yeah.
And we're imperfect. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's fun to think that way. Like, okay, I would love to, you know, just shoot my best for an entire, and I've done it for an entire round. Like I have 13 100 straights.
Oh, really?
In our game, and that's very hard to do.
So I'll tell you a quick little story if you let me, if
Sure.
that's okay.
Sorry.
No. I mean, I love listening to this, but it's something that my dad is not, and my little brother might not want to admit to you guys. I'm the one. I tell them that I'm the best shooter in the family. I do tell them this.
Your dad has actually
That is
told me
awesome.
that you're the best shooter in the family.
So here's why. Because there was one time that me, my little brother, and my dad shot in the same 50.
Tournament.
It was 50 targets.
Mhm.
It was like a fun shoot.
Mhm.
Like one of those that you just like can hit everything.
Yeah.
But not everybody hit everything except for me.
That's awesome.
So I went 50 for 50. And sometimes like I felt like that, like, oh my gosh, I can't miss type feeling.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you're going into that last station. You're like, if I miss now, like
Mhm.
in that last pair, you're like,
Yeah, heart's
yeah,
pumping
like I
pretty
can't
good.
do this because I've already been, you know, I kind of talk a lot of crap. So I'm like, so I was already talking, running my mouth because that's just, I
What
was
you
with
do
my
with your
family.
brother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I was like, I was going to that last station. Then everyone's like, oh, you know, they're starting to talk. Don't miss, don't miss.
Uh-huh.
So I hold that against, I mean, this was
That's
like
awesome.
10 years ago, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe 10 years ago. Yeah, whatever it was. It might even be longer. And I'll still tell them that like,
I'm the best
I'm the
shooter.
best shooter for that one shoot,
Oh,
fun
that's
shoot.
awesome.
And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's
fun
like a
shoots are
charity shoot.
Yeah.
It's like, I think my dad got like a 48 and my
Yeah.
little brother got like a 43. But this is before my little brother was like
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
good. But yeah, so I just tell them that.
Was it in Wisconsin or
It's in
Phoenix?
Wisconsin. Yeah. So it was
That
kind of
is
Yeah. And they're
fun.
known to
funny.
throw easy targets in
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
Oh, it's
too.
fun. I just remember being like, well, and they're always like, well, that was like easy targets. I said, well, then why didn't you hit them all?
Yeah.
You know, that's what I always say. So,
I mean,
That's
that's-
awesome.
but yeah, so then you guys are, I mean, obviously you guys are so fun. You guys have such an easy, like easygoing like relationship and all that kind of stuff. It just feels so natural. When you guys are competing, is it like are you guys squatting together a lot? Are you guys not squatting together a lot? How does that work?
Yeah, we squad together in pretty much everything that we can.
That's awesome.
The only things that we don't get squatted together in is like the world championships.
Mhm.
Like I'll be on the ladies team for Team USA. He'll be
Makes
competing
sense.
with the men.
Okay.
And then also, I guess that's going to happen at the US Open. And then
Well, there'll be
World Feed Task, World English.
at the U.S. Open and National. We have what should have been happening for the last 20 years in shooting.
True.
They call it the Super Squad. So based off of, well, it's kind of like in golf. They'll random squad all the top shooters together,
Okay.
and then they'll re-squad the last day based off of score.
Basically like what they do on the weekend in golf.
Mhm.
Like you're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah.
Which has been extremely successful every time they've done it.
Yeah.
You just do it like once every few years.
It's fun
Until
because it
now,
makes it
so.
feel more like professional, right?
Totally,
It's just not
totally.
buddies squatting with each other
Yeah.
to go shoot. It's like there are actually professionals that are doing that. So
Yeah.
I personally love it. Last year was the first year that I got to experience that. I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, but as of like us squatting together, I started squatting with him when he was coach. So like I learned actually so much just watching him.
Yeah.
And like modeling my game after him. And like
Interesting.
as coaches, we're like, we never want to turn someone into us, but it just happened that way. You know, like I shoot exactly like he does. But
That's
then,
funny.
you know, after like we started like dating, squatting together, got
Yeah.
like a little, like it was a little, like we butted heads a little bit because like it's like, oh, we're trying to help each other, but there's just
I
the
get it.
relationship in with the competing. So that's
Totally, I
something that
get
we've
it.
had to like learn.
I'll tell you what, in pickleball, you don't play with your significant other.
No.
It's not something that you do. You do
Yeah.
not play with your significant other because it's just like
Yeah.
there's in pickleball, it's a little bit more like you're on the team together. Like at
Yeah.
least you guys have
Yeah,
individual
right,
scores, right?
Exactly.
And when you're on the same team together, it can get a little bit.
Right.
Mhm.
It's funny. It's funny how like you'll see like couples posting on Instagram afterwards, like, well, we didn't kill each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's good.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like it's just such like a different dynamic,
Mhm.
right? Like, so you guys are, I mean, you guys are at the top of the shooting community in whatever way you want to look at that. But then you guys, so then you mentioned you guys, so you're going to squad with the female team.
Mhm.
Then you're squatting with the male team.
For the world
English.
Sport and Clay Championships. For the World Feed Task, it's completely random.
Okay.
And like Fujera a couple weeks ago, completely random.
Of all the people, they just kind of threw you out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, does that help with, and this is something that I know a little bit about, but not like a ton. So that would also help with, you guys all are then competing in the same weather, the same conditions, right? That's got to help in terms of like, you don't want somebody shooting on a sunny day, nice wind blowing right towards you.
Correct.
Next day, 40 miles an hour opposite direction.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Exactly.
That stuff happens all the time when it's not the top shooters
Yeah.
together. You know, it's based
Absolutely.
off of really kind of the luck of the draw with what day and time you get. Because like you said, I mean, from morning to afternoon can be completely different conditions.
Totally.
Like we shot in Florida right before we left for the tournament in the UAE. And like the Sunday morning that we shot, the rotation that we were in, we shot in rain the entire morning, right?
Oh my gosh.
No, we both still shot really good, but right when we got done, I mean, it was like clear sunny.
Oh my
for
gosh.
the next two rotations. So
Yeah.
our game, it's very similar to golf because like you can never tell the conditions, but when they re-squad you based off a score, it's a lot more fair because the people that you're actually competing with, you are having the same weather conditions.
So there's two things to that. One is that you guys are then competing against the best. And so almost like, I always say, like, for me at least, and for a lot of top athletes, when you compete against the best, it brings out the best, right? It brings out your best you. Maybe it brings out that somehow perfection side, right?
Sure.
But then it also brings out the level of, there's competition. And sometimes people, you never know how that people work with competition, right? Sometimes people will be very confident when they get to go head to head with somebody. And sometimes you might see people kind of fall off. Like you don't really know. So you guys having that, as we talked about earlier, having that faith kind of keeping you grounded this might turn out easier for you guys.
Yeah. Well, and I don't necessarily know if it's easier, but we certainly have something to shift our mindset, you know, shift
Absolutely.
our focus, and certainly easier to recenter
Definitely.
at times. Yeah. But, you know, it's like, it's one of those things where we absolutely love competing together, you know, because I think like we both push each other, like we almost keep each other accountable at times, you know, when we kind of go off, but at the same time, like it's almost easier to go off when we're with each other too,
That's
you
true.
know, but I kind of prepare mentally for both scenarios, you know, so like, okay, if I'm going to be competing with the rest of the top guys, like here's my mindset. If I'm going to be competing with Karen, here's my mindset.
Yeah.
And so you've got to plan and visualize for those different situations. And, you know, that's like one of the things that has helped me perform at the highest level in all kinds of different situations is I've kind of already been there, you know, like I've already visualized being there and performing at the highest level in adverse conditions. I visualized that airplane flying over my head, you know, when I'm about to call for the target. I visualize people talking in the background when I'm, you know, getting ready to try to focus, visualize handling a bad call from the referee and all those things. Like you've got to be prepared for everything, and you got to be prepared for those emotions too. When, you know, maybe you're down a target or two going into the last couple stations. Like how are you gonna handle that?
Absolutely.
Know? Or if you're up a target or two, how are you gonna handle that? You know, you don't want to crumble.
Great point. Or if you're up on each other in practice, like it probably gives you guys. I mean, I always like compete against my siblings, so I like love it, but. I'm not married, so it's hard to compete against somebody I'm not married to. Yeah, great. But at the end of the day, you guys get to like see the best every day in, day out. You guys get to see what the top level is. So that, I mean, it's fascinating. You guys are obviously taking it very well.
It's a crazy situation. I mean, I don't know if there's too many other scenarios like ours.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody with this same scenario specifically as another person. But yeah, it's really unique, but it's really fun. And I think we're making the most of it right now. And we've got some really great people in our corner that kind of help us think through certain things. And
that's good.
You know, able to share, hey, you know, this happened and that happened, and they're able to help us figure out how to deal with those scenarios in a very healthy way.
Absolutely. So then as I kind of pivot out of like just like the competition point, because I could probably talk about competition for the next 3 days. If we pivot kind of into coaching and kind of how you guys coach and your styles of coaching, do you guys see yourself being very similar styles? Do you guys feel like you guys maybe are stronger in different areas? Talk to us about coaching. And Karen, maybe I'll let you go on this one and ramble for a little bit.
So I started coaching in 2020 when COVID hit and everything. And one big thing that helped me, again, was I started just going along with him in his lessons because he had been coaching for so long.
For sure.
So I was like, okay, let's learn how to communicate. Let's learn how to like see these things. And so for probably 3 months, like I just went along and watched all his lessons.
So good.
And
learn from
like,
the best.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I started picking up on so many things. And then eventually I got to the point where like I'd start feeling comfortable just to like add in a word like, oh, hey, like I saw this, you know?
Great point.
And so then when I started getting more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And I noticed my lessons started getting better. They started picking up.
Cool.
Along with the shooting. So I learned my coaching from him. So I would say that we have very, very similar methods of coaching.
Yeah.
But we also have slightly different personalities. So I might explain something a little bit more to someone. He might like to demonstrate a little bit more. I mean, we both demonstrate. So we also have actually coached together. And a lot of students like your dad
of course,
prefer it. They're like, okay, you guys have the same things. You say the same things, but you might say it in a slightly different way that connects to me a little bit better, you know? And so I'd say like that has been really cool because like we get to coach and work together and then kind of like build off of each other on that. Yeah. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's been a really neat opportunity. Like I've never really imagined coaching with somebody, but it's just kind of organically happened. Several of our students are like, well, can I book you both at the same time? We're like, yeah, sure. You know? And so it's cool. Cause like we're not actually making as much money individually, but together, you know, we charge a certain rate. You know?
Yeah.
And so we're making that rate, but we get to coach together, spend time with each other, but also like, even before we were married, but especially now that we're married, it's like the information that we're trying to pour into somebody. Yeah. We're trying to transfer our knowledge into them. I feel like it almost has more power when we're together, and I can't really explain it, but it's really fun and we enjoy it. And I think we're both very gifted to be able to coach. Like I don't know how many other top athletes are also maybe top coaches. Yeah. And in our sport, it's kind of a necessity, just because I mentioned we don't make a ton of money week in and week out. Not every tournament.
You almost have to adapt to that.
Yeah. Not every tournament you win $140,000. Like, you know, our biggest tournaments, let's say our average tournament, if you win, you're probably going to win somewhere around $5,000. Okay? Yeah. The bigger tournaments, if you win, you're going to win somewhere maybe between 10 and 15,000. But, you know, you've got to at least place in the top 3 to even make a little bit of money. Yeah. At a tournament. And that's something that in ladies, like I'm not going to say she's guaranteed, but she kind of banks on that. Like, okay, probably going to be in the top 3 of ladies, but the men's, it's so competitive that, well, like sometimes she makes it in the top 3 in men's, which is awesome. But, but for me, it's not like a guaranteed thing week in and week out, because we've gotten, there's probably 50 different people, in the US that can win a tournament. So anyway, that being said, like we have to coach, and I really think that we're both gifted to coach and compete at the highest level. And we've had, some pretty successful students. I have over the years, and she's starting to, pour her knowledge into people that they're starting to become really, really good. And so it's fun to just see this community growing. And your community, the pickleball community, we're in very similar places right now.
Definitely.
But there's a lot more people that play pickleball. There's a lot more. It's certainly more affordable, like,
Oh my gosh.
Sure.
I mean,
shooting
yeah.
is really expensive.
Yes.
But the thing is, like, we need to figure out how to separate our professionals so that maybe one day, every time we pull the trigger, our bank account will go up instead of down.
Yeah.
True.
Isn't that funny? No, I get that. I get that totally. So then maybe a question that I don't know if our listeners are asking yet, like while they're listening, but something that I'm thinking about is like, when you guys are shooting together, do you guys ever coach each other, or are you guys kind of turned off to the coaching from the other person during training? How does that dynamic work? Because I'm sure you guys train together and all that.
Yeah, so we train together pretty much every time we shoot.
Yeah.
And definitely like open to the other's information.
Suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, I mean, not all the time. It just kind of depends on the moment.
Of course,
Like if
yeah.
you're, there's always times where it's like, okay, I'm struggling on this and I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, just let me figure it out on my own. But most of the time, that's probably like 95% of the time, it's probably like, hey, like, what am I doing? Do you see anything?
Yeah.
But we both like, so Gebben, was my coach. But as you shoot together with someone so often,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes a little bit harder to see the small things that might need to be changed in our games.
Yeah.
So we both still have a coach that will come in and we'll work with them maybe once a year or so. Just really depends on where we're at. But
That's cool.
we'll do that so we can have that coach behind us. But we still definitely both encourage and give each other the info that they
Yeah.
need.
No, that's good. I mean, that's healthy, right?
Mhm.
Like I always say, like, it doesn't matter how good someone is at something. Like Tiger Woods in his prime had a
Mhm.
coach, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there was somebody else that was in the background going like, hey, like this is what I saw differently, just
Mhm.
barely. And it's not really like coaching all the time either. It's
Right.
like just good feedback.
Exactly.
You know? It's
Mhm.
growth.
For sure.
And then there's another piece of this that I wanted to talk about, and it's when you guys. So I know you guys are very you guys have known each other for a little bit of time now, but I wanted to kind of ask how you guys met my dad, because I actually don't know if I know how you guys met my dad, or if it was just kind of like I really don't know, and so I was curious. And I think that the listeners who have already listened to my dad's episode
Yeah,
will then
that's great.
get to like know kind of how you guys met him and
Oh, that's awesome.
your relationship with him.
I met your dad a long time ago. Probably, I don't know exactly when he started shooting, but I know it was right whenever he started shooting. He kind of, like you said, he's one of those people that jump all in. Like
He
now
is
he's
definitely
got
that.
his own podcast.
Yeah.
And so he started traveling to all the big shoots pretty shortly after he started shooting.
Yeah.
And so I don't remember exactly where we first met. Might have been at like World Championship in Kansas or something. But I remember like the first time that we really went out to dinner and got to know each other. And that was actually pretty recently. That was in 2017 in Hungary, actually.
Oh, nice.
And we were staying at the same place for a World VTES Championship. And we went to just this little like pizza place right next to the hotel that had outdoor seating. And there was a few shooters there. But I remember your dad and I think Joey was there. And
I
your
think
mom.
Joey was. I think so. Yeah.
And so, we just started talking more and more. And I didn't really know much, about your dad. I'd seen him at the shoots in Florida, like when you guys used to live in Florida.
Yeah.
And so, we'd cross paths, but never, and a few times we'd go out to dinner with like a big group, but never really got to have that one-on-one time.
Yeah.
And so I think in Hungary was the first time. And then I think from Hungary we flew to England or something like that. I don't remember exactly what those details were.
Yeah.
But then we started working together a little bit around that time. And then when I moved back to Arizona, especially, is when we started doing a lot of lessons. And then last year we worked together, Karen, your dad and myself, we worked together a lot to help him try to get to that next level.
Yeah.
So.
I know that he's shooting his new gun right now. And I think last weekend he mentioned, he's like, I'm finally shooting it good again.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is like, testament to you guys, but also a testament to like, I think that he's shooting is he shooting his Craig off right now?
Mhm.
Yeah. So he's loving it right now, and he just had that new stock made. So, but then, so Karen, then how did you end up just like through Gebben?
Well, no, I met your dad when I used to shoot with Joey.
Oh yeah.
And so, they would go and watch Joey shoot.
Yeah.
I was in maybe the same squad or, right behind, or you see him at awards. So it was like, I can't tell you like the exact moment. I just knew them.
But you knew,
because of shooting with Joey. And then I think I shot with, I was shooting with Joey a little bit in 2018, and then another friend, like we would just go out and practice together, and then your dad would be there.
Oh, nice.
And then I ended up shooting a couple tournaments with Jeff.
Yeah.
And then just knew him by seeing him in the tournaments the last few years. And then last year was like, that's when we started working.
That's cool.
Him.
That's cool. I know my dad speaks very highly of both of you, obviously. And I think I've heard more about Gebben specifically because you guys have known each other a little bit longer, probably. But he says amazing things about you, and it's awesome to like be able to actually sit down and get to know you guys, because sometimes like you just hear of people. I don't know how it like that, if that makes sense, but like it's like, okay, like I get it. Like you shoot sporting clays and you do this and that, but you don't really know people. So like you were saying, like you cross paths with people, but you never actually like hone down on that. So that's really cool. From there, so then you guys now live in Tucson, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And how long, you said that you moved back in about 2020, and you've lived there your whole life?
No, so I'm actually from a little farm town halfway between here in Phoenix and Tucson called Eloy. So I've lived out on the farm pretty much my whole life. So it's about an hour both ways.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So I've always been an hour between Tucson, Trap, and Skeet, and then an hour from kind of Ben Avery area.
Now
and then we actually have our shooting academy at her family's farm. So that's in Eloy, and we split time between there and the range in Tucson. I mean, the range in Tucson, my dad runs it. It's probably the largest clay target facility in the world. Actually, I mean, I won't say probably. It is the largest clay target facility in the world.
Oh my God.
And that's a great place to teach and coach. But this time of year, there's so many people out there. I mean, it's like they have 250 RV spots. There's probably most of those are married couples. And so there's probably somewhere between 500 to 1,000 people on the grounds all the time this time of year.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. And so it's not, but they have 6 courses, 8 feet test layouts. I mean, it's huge. And, but it is nice to have the very private area where we have like 30 machines at her family's farm.
That's nice.
And we have a 60-foot tower, 80-foot tower. So we can do whatever we want. And it's a really nice, intimate setting to do instruction. So, and to train as well.
Yeah.
That's really nice. It's a privilege. It's such an awesome opportunity for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like her dad started building that up literally from like one little machine behind a
piece of plywood. It was our trap field.
Oh, really?
Because
you guys were just
piece of plywood, one machine, and then that turned into like an actual trap house with actual stations,
and
then an American skeet field, and then from there, my dad got 8 machines.
Wow.
And then it turned into,
and then I brought my 10, and then my dad gave us a couple, and
it's turned into like 30. And then the towers,
rocking it.
Like the most recent thing is a scissor lift that we can get up and actually practice stuff below our feet.
No, that's cool.
Because we don't have anywhere to practice that, and you go so many places. So
that is so good.
Dad and the farm has definitely been like an incredible sponsor for both Gebben and I to be able to train and coach people there. So
wow, that is so cool. It's such a unique opportunity, honestly. And from my side of things, I see. So I'm obviously my listeners know I'm into pickleball, and what I see is like everybody's putting courts at their house, right? Everybody's building these courts, and they have the opportunity to build these courts nowadays.
Way cheaper to build a pickleball court than a shooting range.
I was gonna say I don't even want to know how that works. I think
each machine is roughly $3,000.
Jeez, yeah. So exactly. So the funny thing is that the way I look at it is, when you are able to have that in your backyard, you can truly pursue something and try to be great.
Yeah.
I mean,
sure.
it allows you just an opportunity to push to that next level. Like you said, it's a little bit more intimate, a little bit more, you can probably set your traps kind of, you're like,
Exactly.
hey, I need to work on
it.
something.
Yeah.
So pickleball is a little bit similar, like where like all of a sudden you're seeing these people who build the court at their house. They're like, well, yeah, now I train every single day. And instead of having to go to the public court and share time with people on different things, and then hope that there is a good enough game, or hope that for in your case, a good enough trap layout to get the training that you need.
Right. Exactly.
So that's really, really unique. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and the crazy thing is, and I know we're kind of running out of time.
No
but
worries. Yeah, we got a few
to to think about like where our sport started. I mean, my dad and I used to have a hand thrown machine where like you sat on it and you cocked the arm and then pulled it and launched the clays. We just go out to the desert, in the late 90s. That's what we used to do.
Oh my gosh.
And then that turned into my dad and this guy, Scott Kusanik, who runs a bunch of the shoots up here in Phoenix.
Yeah.
They bought like 26 machines, and one of my dad's friends let them throw targets and actually build a course on a property way out, very close to Eloy, where she's from. Like
only a few miles south of our house. Yeah.
Probably 5 or 6 miles south of there.
It's hilarious.
But people would have to drive like 13 miles on dirt road to get there and stuff. It was crazy. And then that transferred into Tucson Trap and Skeet, and one course, fed into 2, fed into 3. They just kept getting more land.
Yeah.
They kept leasing more land because it's all like, it's crazy out there. It's all floodplain, so they can't build on it. And it's in the path of a airport, like a little municipal airport, so it'll never have homes on it. And so the county just let them continue to expand. They gave them like 500 acres or so, and so that one course is now 6 plus 8 VTAS layouts.
Yeah, and now that's awesome. That is so cool. And then at your place, do you guys have it set up for VTAS? Do you have it set up for sporting, like, or do you have everything basically, whatever you want?
Yeah, so we actually just have like in one area have the 30 machines set pretty much all in the one area. So then we can move wherever we need to shoot. We can have one target set like this and shoot it from back here, and then go completely opposite way and shoot a different way.
Her dad built us this grass field that's about 110 yards wide by 50 yards or long by 50 yards wide. And so we just shoot on the 50-yard part of it, and then all of our machines are spread out over that 110 yards there, and it's awesome. And then our towers are kind of at the corners, and so we can move and shoot overheads, driven targets, anything, crossing, towers, and we can shoot almost in a 360 circle too, so we can move everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, that is awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
Does my dad ever go out there?
Yeah.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Dude, why doesn't he take me out there? I'll have to get out there at some point and just come and see you guys. And
he hasn't been taking you out there because he knew you were going to do this 6 Degree podcast.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you can't know them quite well enough to not have them on the show until you have them on the show. And now you can come out.
All right, that makes more sense. Yeah, I was like, and I'll have to get you guys out playing pickleball soon.
We totally want to.
Because
and we wanted to today, except she's recovering from her melanoma surgery.
Yeah, are you doing okay with that?
I'm doing good.
That's good.
Yeah.
No, it was. I'll play pickleball whenever. So you let me know. So
absolutely.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining. It's good to get to know a little bit more about you guys. I'm sure that we could do this 10 times over and hear new things every single time, but I really do appreciate you guys taking time out of your day. And then for the listeners, make sure that you follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere where you listen to your podcasts. And then please rate us 5 stars and let us know. Maybe leave a comment and see if I can do better things. And I'm still learning a little bit, but it's very fun. So thank you for listening. And I'll have probably the next guest on here next week, and we'll see kind of where it goes. Yeah, perfect. Kind of up in the air. So
we got some ideas.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Danny.
It is those random acquaintances that make possible.
6 degrees.